top, drum of 2,000 fluorescent light bulbs atop that. Known by its address, 311 South Wacker Drive, it is a postmodern building from 1990, designed by Kohn, Peterson, and Fox. KPF, they're known. Okay, great. Well, let's be fair. I've just done everything I've been paid to do with different amounts of frosting, okay? We used to put a lot of frosting on the outside of the cake to kind of show it off from the outside. So generally speaking, if you see a lot of detail on the outside of a building in Chicago, it's probably one of our older buildings, at least 100 years old. An example of that, in the distance on the right, that low off-white colored building that has ionic columns lining the top. Does everybody see that one? Those columns are totally unnecessary. They're not holding up the roof, right? That's frosting. That half of that building, 1920s. Then architects start to take away frosting. You get a little less frosting event is that tall black box in front of us, or the brown box behind it, or the white box across from it, or the black box behind that one. There were a couple of black boxes to the east of us. There was a red box to the south of those black boxes. You kind of get the hang of it, right? Those boxy office buildings. So then after modernism is the style of this pink building. Postmodernism, which means after modernism. Postmodern, pause for the noise and for suspense. Why did that insanely gorgeous across the street from the Sears Tower? And yes, I said Sears Tower. We'll talk about it. Who here has ever heard of the Sears Tower? Raise your hands. Fantastic. Hands down. Who here before about 4 minutes ago had ever heard of oldest child, born 1973? Everyone knows her because she's the tallest building in the world for about 25 years. And then 17 years later, right across the street in 1990, comes the poor second-born child. Does anyone else know what that feels like? Because I sure do. How do you get attention for yourself? You strap a huge drum of 2,000 fluorescent light bulbs to your head and you light it up at night. It kind of looks like a cake. So we tend to call this one the wedding cake building or the birthday cake. A lot of information to share with you all. I'm going to give you your money's worth, all right? But I do it in kind of a contextual way, so hopefully it's going to make a little bit more sense. Now get your cameras out and on the ready. Take a picture of these people. No, I'm kidding. Take a look over to the right because that's a fantastic angle on the Sears Tower, isn't it? It is 9 black tubes that end. It's called the bundled tube construction. It was a Bangladeshi American engineer, Fazlur Khan, who came up with that idea. The deeper the stilts have to go. Sometimes, though, there's too many train tracks. And by the way, don't worry, we're not skipping that one. We're not skipping. I will tend to our knowledge garden. And then at the end, we're going to harvest all that good old knowledge. You're going to see. So the Boeing headquarters building coming up on the left after the bridge. This is from the same year as the pink building that we started with, 1990. Different architects, Perkins and Will. Same style. How is that the same style as the pink building? They don't look anything alike. Well, it's because of postmodernism. It's not so much about what they look like. It's about how they're having fun with architecture. What's the secret? I'll tell you what the secret is on the way back. It's a tower, and it has a short chunk sticking out towards us. There's always a reason for that. It is never just to look cool. This one has to do with those caissons underneath. There's enough room under the tower to sink caissons into the ground, but then under the shorter part, there's too many train tracks, so they cantilever it off of the taller part. Now, what does that mean? Like this. If the tower is your body, that short part is like a bag of groceries that you're holding out in front of your body. Where does the support for the bag come from? It's not under the bag, it's coming from your body. That's why it's shaped that way, right? So always ask yourselves, why is the building even shaped a certain way, right? There's always a reason. That's actually, for this one on the left, why is that one shaped? It's an office building finished in 2017, known by its address, 150 North Riverside Plaza, designed by Getch Partners. But why is it even shaped that way? And you already know the answer. Remember those train tracks. So they basically had to sandwich the core of the building between the river and the train tracks. Then they cantilever out from about the 8th floor. Now all these buildings have to have some way to handle the wind constantly pushing against them. And you have my word, this is the nerdiest I'm going to get, then I'm going to back off a little bit. But I also want you guys to know I'm doing 4 of these today. This is my second one. I'm 5'9", so I know I'm going to clear this. All right? But you good at work? You're like, by God, the courage of that girl, I would follow her anywhere. Especially since she's at the front of the boat. All right, so take a look back at 150 North Riverside, because I think this is a nice picture, first of all, with the L tracks going over there and the bridge. But look at the shape of that, especially a building that has such a narrow base really has to have to deal with the wind pushing against it. That building has something so cool sitting up on top. You can't see it, but I love it that you're all trying to look. It's called a tuned sloshing damper, or a slosh damper. Think of what water does when it sloshes, right? There is a tank of 160,000 gallons of water sitting up on top of that building. And as the wind pushes the building from the side, that water moves separately and differently from the building itself. It helps to stabilize it in the wind. Very famous architect Walter Gropius said, "Architecture begins where engineering ends." Now, we've just entered the north branch of the Chicago River. We're going to check out, this is the north branch. On the north branch of the Chicago River, we're mainly going to be looking at three types of buildings. We're going to see warehouses, we're going to see condos, and we're going to see warehouses that are now condos. So we're going to start out with one of those. That's what this peach box is over here on the left. This peach box is actually the oldest building that you're going to see on this tour today. It's from 1898. It's called Fulton House, designed by Frank Abbott. It's an old cold storage warehouse. So originally, no windows, no balconies, very thick, well-insulated walls, like a huge freezer. That meant that in the 1980s, when they converted it into those condos, they had to let that building thaw out for about a year before they could touch it. It was a huge project. Now, the same architect responsible for directing this conversion project happened to design the buildings that are right next door. And I want to make sure you all get a really good look at these on your left. River cottages from the 1980s. People live inside, right on the river. See the triangles all over the place? Triangular buttressing for the balconies. You got diamond-shaped windows. Well, a diamond, that's just a bunch of triangles put together. Anytime you see triangles architecture, you take a guess at the architect, Harry Weed. Now, at this point in my tour, I always like to get to know you all as people. Okay, where are you from? Where are you from? Just kidding, just kidding. No pressure. No, I like to know kind of get a sense of what your aesthetic is. All right, so we're going to do a vote. I removed my sunglasses so I participation with eye contact.
Hi, Alex.
So here's the deal. Y'all saw the river cottages, right? The deal is you either like the river cottages or you did not like the river cottages. There is no not having an opinion on this boat right now. You all felt a certain way and you're surprised how strongly you felt about it, okay? So no wrong answer. Who are the river cottages that we just saw? Raise your hands. Keep them up, keep them up, keep them up. Raise the baby if you can. Oh, yes, thank you. And hands down. That was adorable. Okay, no wrong answer. Who did not like the river cottages? Admit it. Admit it. Okay, so I would say we're about 2/3 and 1/3 on that one. But I'll tell you this, just the fact that we have a difference of opinion about a building at all proves my point. This is all an art. It's like any other art, right? We all have tastes. We got stuff we like. We got stuff we don't like. This is the final physical state of a series of drawings and imaginations. We all got stuff we like. We got stuff we don't like. Now, I do have a building. I'm positive you're all going to love it. Are you ready to see it? Are you ready to see it? See it?
Yes.
It's this cute little greenhouse coming up on the left. And if you can't see her well enough, you're in luck because she actually has an identical twin coming up over here on the bridge. And Gio, here are those bridge houses. Next to the bridges, and I say, you mean the bridge houses? They're called bridge houses or bridge tender houses. It's the person responsible for tending to the operation of the movable bridge.
Yeah.
And then that's always the follow-up question. Wait a second, still open? Yeah. Technically, up here on the north branch, we haven't had to open up these since about 2015. But technically, even this massive mid-20th century Ohio Street Bridge can open right down the middle. Chicago actually has more movable bridges than any other city in the world. We have 52 movable bridges. Now, sometimes I've heard people calling these drawbridges. That's not correct. Think about it. If you're drawing it by pen, but by pulling, it would have something pulling it, right? This is not a drawbridge. These are called bascule bridges. Bascule is basically the French word for seesaw. If it's a single leaf bascule, it opens up like a seesaw from one side with a counterweight down on one end. If it's a double leaf bascule, it opens up from both sides down the middle. And I feel I should warn you all right now before we continue. You could have picked any boat to be on right now. Any boat in Chicago. You guys got the tour guide who nerds out about bridges. Okay? You're welcome. I fully expect later on to hear you guys walking along the Riverwalk, having cute little romantic conversations, being like, honey, do you think this is a double leaf, double-decker fixed trunnion pony dress? And I will be so proud. I'll be like, they grew up so fast. Now, check out this area over here on the right. We've got Ward Park, named after Montgomery Ward. This is one of Chicago's 600 or so official park district parks. We are a very green city. Our city motto reflects that greenness, Orbs in Horto, which is Latin for city in a garden. And it really doesn't matter what I tell you about these buildings, early 2000s, 1980s, early 1900s, it doesn't matter. There is one thing that all these buildings on the right have in common on the outside that tells you people probably live inside of them. What do you think that is? Balconies, right? Because think about it, you're not generally going to put balconies on an office building. You're not going to put balconies on a warehouse. So if you see balconies on a building, even if you know nothing else about the building itself, that'll at least tell you people probably live inside, right? So take, for example, we've got this cream-colored building coming up on the right that's got these balconies sticking out from it. Sometimes if you see those kind of old brick masonry built buildings and they've got balconies that are clearly tacked on the outside as opposed to incorporated into the design like we see with these, you could tell that's probably some kind of conversion, all right? Some kind of adaptive reuse of a building. And you'd be correct. So the one with the balconies coming up on the right, nowadays it's residential, of course, but take it back over 100 years to when it was built. You're looking at the administrative headquarters for Montgomery Ward, their offices. Now, who here has ever heard of Montgomery Ward? Okay, everyone over the age of 40. Who here has ever heard of Amazon? Everybody else. Best way to explain it? Montgomery Ward is the original Amazon. Okay? Being able to order something and have it magically arrive at your doorstep, that wasn't always a thing. Someone had to invent that idea. It was this guy. He invented it in the 1870s. In fact, about 20 years later, there was another competitor who joined the mail order industry fray. You might have heard that, right? You give it to little kids so they could join you at the dinner table, right? So the very first Sears catalog was put out in the 1890s, and it was only one page. Eventually he added a few more products. But Montgomery Ward, he was the beginning of this idea of a mail order industry. Eventually, Chicago had such a huge mail order industry. Not only did we have to build a huge a huge post office in the late 1920s, and over here on your right, this long warehouse building, 1908. Nowadays, this is offices and some retail at the bottom. This is another one of those adaptively repurposed or reused buildings. But this building is so long, the hallways are so long, the workers would sometimes use roller skates to get around from one end to another to deliver the mail and the packages. Wouldn't that be fun to go to work? Everybody's just roller skating down the hallway. Wouldn't that be fun? So it is pretty convenient that the Twinkie, the Brownie, 16-inch softball, all the good stuff. All right, I'm gonna take a quick pulse. How's everybody doing? Okay, all of my years as a tour guide and doing improv comedy have taught me one very useful skill: reading my audience. This is always the first saturation point. It hits every time, and it's totally fine. 90 minutes, that's literally the length of a full-length movie. I'm going to fill almost every second of it with good content to make sure you feel like you get your money's worth. But I'm also a kind person, and I know that's overwhelming. So we're gonna do this in 3 parts. We're gonna do 2. And then at the end, I'll open it up for questions. I'll also walk around during the break, see if you have any questions so far. So this is going to be our first break. It'll give you a chance to just enjoy the ride for a few minutes, talk amongst yourselves. You could grab a drink from Raya down at the bar. There's 2 staircases in the front. There's a staircase back there. And just kind of enjoy the ride for a few minutes. Use the bathroom if you need to. You guys having a good time so far?
Yes.
Okay, enjoy a quick break, everybody.
Nandito kami sa Chicago Architectural Boat Tour. Here is Anthony.